No politician in history, and I say this with great surety, has been treated worse or more unfairly. The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign, but I can always speak for myself and the Russians, zero.
That's President Trump playing the victim. He does that a lot. He also lies a lot. That's according to professional fact checkers and also mental health professionals who are analyzing the president from afar. They say he is clinically delusional, narcissistic, and mentally unstable. My next guest, the founder of Duty to Warn. It's a group saying President Trump is mentally unfit to be president. John Gartner, a psychologist who taught at Johns Hopkins for 28 years. Let me go through some terms here for our audience, and then we're going to do, on the backside of it, some explanation as to the context of this. First of all, explain to people the Goldwater rule, how it came to an effect, and what was it intended to do.
Right. Well, it all started in 1964 when a magazine called Fact Magazine published an article of a survey they did of psychiatrists arguing that Barry Goldwater was mentally unfit for office. And actually, it was sort of unfair because it wasn't really true about Goldwater. What we also have to remember is psychiatry was much more primitive in those days. They accused him of being scarred by his potty training or having Oedipal issues. These were Freudian constructs that were very abstract and theoretical. Nowadays, we have very clear behavioral criteria from the DSM. So, for example, one of the disorders that he has is antisocial personality disorder. Well, what are the criteria? Lying. Well, we know he lies. I mean, he is maybe the world's champion liar. He's lied 500 times in the last 10 months, according to the Toronto Star. He lies every 3 minutes and 15 seconds, according to Politico. So these are behavioral criteria that we can observe. And the other main thing is for sociopaths or psychopaths is that they routinely violate the rights of others. Well, he's someone who has not paid his workmen, who had Trump University, a fraud. He routinely sexually assaulted dozens of women who have come forward and bragged about it on the Access Hollywood tape. So he suffers from something called malignant narcissism, which is a combination of narcissism, paranoia, antisocial personality disorder, and sadism. This is actually a diagnosis that was first introduced by Erich Fromm, a refugee of Nazi Germany, to explain Hitler and Stalin and other tyrants. So this is a very, very severe and dangerous mental illness to have in a leader. And it really puts our country in peril. And so we believe that we have a duty to warn the public, because there's also in our ethical code a duty to warn someone who might be in danger. And we can break confidentiality or any other ethical code to save that or warn that person. And we feel we have an ethical responsibility to warn the millions of people who are in danger because of the Trump presidency.
To that point, though, Doctor, a lot of people take issue because they said, whether it's in the confidences of the psychiatrist, if a patient makes a direct or imminent threat to a person, there you have a clear line. You have to alert that person. As you said, the majority of states here, duty to warn exists. But right now, you're attempting to remotely look at a person, in this case the president, diagnose him remotely, and then say that he has also harm. And in the same standard that we applied from Fromm, he was talking about Hitler and Stalin. Genocide you attach to both of those men. It's a leap, isn't it? I mean, even with all the issues of Donald Trump, aren't we making a major leap to connote that here?
He is following the classic authoritarian playbook of a fascist leader. If you look at the things that Hitler did in the early stages of his chancellorship, it's very similar to Donald Trump. He tried to delegitimize the press. He tried to purge the bureaucracy. He created a kind of new normal where hatred of minorities was acceptable. I'm not saying he's as bad as Hitler, but what I'm saying is he's cut from the same cloth. He has the same basic diagnosis. And look, if there was a bomb on a plane, what ethical principle could stop you from warning people to save their lives? Well, what if that bomb's in the White House and its name is Donald Trump? History will not judge us kindly if we stood silent, as the German psychiatrist stood silent when Hitler rose, because we didn't want to get in trouble and therefore failed to warn the public about what we could see so clearly with our psychiatric expertise and understanding.
Give me another definition, this one to hypomania.
Yes. Well, in addition to having malignant narcissism, which is his personality disorder, he also has a temperament which is on the bipolar spectrum. Hypomania is in and of itself not necessarily a disorder, but it's a temperament where people have high energy, drive, ambition, charisma, and are kind of unstoppable, but they're also impulsive and irritable and reckless and arrogant. The problem is oftentimes, and this is true of malignant narcissists in general, when they achieve success, everyone thought he was going to pivot and become more presidential. I wrote a year ago that the opposite was going to happen, because when these people achieve success, they then kind of drink their own Kool-Aid and become more grandiose and more reckless. And the problem with Donald Trump is it's not just that he's a malignant narcissist, he also confuses reality and fantasy. So he has two kinds of lies, those he tells other people and those he tells himself. So, for example, when he says he had the largest inauguration crowd size, or Barack Obama is bugging his office, these are classic delusions of grandeur and persecution.
I always wonder, do you believe that he believes it when he says it? That he looked at, obviously, the photographs side by side. There's no way he thought his crowd was bigger. He knows down deep we didn't have 3 million people illegally vote. He knows down deep, I think, that his office wasn't wiretapped. We know the genesis of these stories, that some conspiracy theorists put it in front of him. My point is, does he believe it down deep, or does he believe, hey, this is a good way to distract from a storyline I don't like that's currently the narrative of today's news cycle? Which is it?
Is he crazy like a fox, or is he crazy? And the answer is both. And it's not always easy to tell from moment to moment. That's why I said there are two kinds of lies he tells. Ones he tells other people to deceive. That's the sociopathic, antisocial part. And then those he tells himself, where he confuses fantasy and reality, where his narcissism so badly requires that he have the biggest crowd size that he actually bends reality to fit his fantasies. So in any given moment, it's not clear whether he's just conning us or whether he's being delusional. But the answer is he does both.
You think it's getting worse, or is this, as you said, it's always been this way, people are just paying attention to it now, or is he actually, as some say, in a decline since he took office?
He is in a decline. He is deteriorating. And that is the normal course of this disorder, that as they gain power, they become more grandiose and reckless and more detached from reality. So they leave orbit, as it were. Now, there may be some organic components some people are wondering about. Does he have Alzheimer's? That may be. I honestly don't know. That's actually not my area of expertise. But I can tell you that these dictators get worse over time, not better.
Finally, Doctor, do we know if a commander-in-chief in our American history has ever received therapy while in office? And moreover, could therapy do this president good?
No. Malignant narcissism is untreatable. That's how serious a disorder it is. And also, a malignant narcissist would never seek treatment.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet here. Interesting. And again, I appreciate, Doctor, the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, the president changing the way that politics is covered largely thanks to his tweeting habit. Similar thing is happening in sports. Social media, a game changer. A new book, it tells us that story and a lot more.